After e4, b6, d4, bishop e7, bishop d3, e6, knight f3, and we're still gonna go through d5. So here, as mentioned in the previous video, we pushed the pawn. And so in the previous video, we went through knight c6. This time, let's go to c5. White continues with the thematic c3. You don't want them to push c4 because yes, this bishop will become even less powerful, but then the white's bishop will be in e2, and you will not have the influence over this amazing diagonal. So you want to play c3, and so in case black plays c4, then you can play bishop c2 and the bishop remains super powerful. We're going to go through c4, but let's first mention c takes d4. We take back, and after knight c6 and knight c3, knight e7. In the previous video, we mentioned an idea that goes like knight f5. They can often play, okay, white's move now is bishop to d2. You just want to develop, but you don't want to compromise. You don't have to play any particularly strong moves, but rather be a little bit more patient because the center is closed. So knight g6. How to play now? Well, clearly now the move is h4. We all know that. This is a thematic move because if black plays h5 to stop us from advancing the pawn, then this pawn will be very weak because when black castles, this pawn cannot be defended by another pawn. And as soon as you move the knight, then the queen will target h5. But either way, the thing is that h5 is coming. So let's cover h5 in this video and see how to continue. White now goes on with knight e2, and after bishop goes on with development, bishop to e7. White now takes the knight. It's kind of surprising, but not really surprising. You know, it's a motive. It's a very recurring pattern. Pawn takes back. Yeah, we've given up our idea of targeting the h5 pawn as mentioned before, but white goes on with knight f4, attacking these two pawns, and we're gonna take one of them at least. This cannot be defended. Like you can think king f7 is apparently defending both, but now queen to c2 targeting the square g6. And even if the pawn pushes, you're still gonna infiltrate in g6. So even after rook h6 defending the pawn, white now castles. Black is compromised. Like this bishop is useless. It just cannot play. And knight to b4, for example, with an attack on the queen. See, you can even think of swapping here, and then after swapping, the bishop will no longer defend the knight, and then knight g5 becomes deadly because the queen will be the only one attacking g5, protected by a pawn. At the moment, the bishop is protecting g5 as well, so you don't really want to play knight g5 because then you just get taken. So after black's best move, considering that black's got nothing to do here, he can't move anything. a5. Well, okay, you might be arguing maybe g5, but remember that after taking the pawn, and when this knight moves, there will be a discovered attack on g5. So for example, you see, you will just take the pawn, and you're completely winning here. The rook will have to go away, and then you have queen g6. If bishop takes, and you go knight e6, you have now triple attack over the bishop plus an attack on the queen. Unless you want to continue the game with king takes knight, but then this is becoming a joke. You will also have a fork, bishop takes, you're attacking the queen and the rook. I mean, it's game over. So in this position, after a5, best move, rook c1, rook c8. Looks like this is becoming a little bit of a normal game, but no, because queen to d3 now, and you still have a threat of playing knight to e6, right? This is the plan you're going for. If king takes, then bishop takes rook, pawn takes back, queen entering g6, white is completely winning. Let's pay attention to this move, knight to b4, white continues queen to b1, staying on this diagonal, protecting the pawn. Two ideas now, if black plays a4, just to make an example, obviously you play bishop takes, and after bishop takes, as mentioned before, knight g5 now is deadly, you're going to win this pawn. And if king goes to e7 to protect the pawn, you've got another check, knight g6, protected by the queen. So in this position, if black plays rook to c7, honestly, there's not much to do. I mean, you might argue that black can play bishop to a6, giving the bishop a much better diagonal with an attack on the rook, but then you will just swap rooks, rook takes, queen takes, and then rook c1 with an attack on the queen will have to move, and you carry on with the plan, the idea of playing knight e6. So here after rook c7, let's finish the line by mentioning how this looks like. Okay, knight e6, making a fork, king takes, and now we take the rook, pawn takes. We're down in material, but now queen check, and only move is king d7, queen f5 check, only move king e8. Now queen h5 check, winning another pawn, and of course king d7 will run into queen f5 once again. So let's just go straight to the point. And now king d7 will be met by queen g4 check, not queen f5, because after the king goes back, then we have ideas of playing e6 with a check, which is very powerful. Now here you have idea of playing e6 with queen g6 and checkmate to come very soon. So let's say what happens when the king goes to f8 instead of going back to d7. Okay, then queen taking another pawn, and after king to g8. Remember, when the king goes to e8, you have this thing of queen g6. Now that there's no black pawns around here, and this check, then you have queen g4, you've got idea of e6 as mentioned before. So let's go through what happens when the king goes to g8. Now rook takes rook, quite surprisingly, because queen takes back, and now we only have a queen and a knight. The knight can't really jump anywhere. He can jump to g5, but he can get taken. And this rook is not really active. So how is it that we're winning? Rook to c1. The rook is protected by the queen, so the rook has to enter the game as soon as possible. Always wake up all your pieces. Never let them sleep. And after queen to d8, queen check, and after king to h8, f8 will just make it easier because the next move, as you know now, is going to be rook to c3. And the idea of the white player is to play knight to g5, a checkmate soon. If black takes, then we can take back. The rook is infiltrating soon. If black plays knight a2 with an attack on the rook, then you get the queen away. Now you play check, and when the king moves on the g file, then you can play knight to g5, still threatening these two squares. So you got check in h7, checkmate in f7, or the other way around. So black can't take the rook, you're threatening checkmate. After bishop takes, you go with rook to g3, and you're winning the endgame. Right? You don't have a mate anymore, but you have. This is because black played the very most accurate moves to defend himself, but you have like position is evaluated plus 12.